We're going to look in this video how we can write ratios in the form 1 to n. Now, why this is very useful is we'll be going on to looking at map scales, and we'll see that this is a very useful way of writing a map scale and using them. So we're going to jump straight on to the examples here. So example 1 says, write 4 to 16 in the form 1 to n. So if I just write that again, 4 to 16, underneath it, just put a 1. And how you've got from 4 down to 1 is you divide it by 4, so you must do the same on this side, so it just becomes 1 to 4. So that is it. Example 2. Example 2 says write 2 to 5 in the form 1 to n. So again, we'll just write it down, 2 to 5, and then 1, 2, and we'll leave a blank for where our n should be. And again, we divide by 2 to get from 2 down to 1. So divide by 2 on the right hand side, 5 divided by 2 is 2.5. You will find in these questions, you will have like 1 to something, and this thing here is not necessarily going to be a pretty number, but it's just that it makes it much nicer if it's in this form 1 to n. It makes it much nicer to use map scales and things like that. So just expect to get not a particularly nice number on the right hand side or the left hand side, depending on where your 1 is. Okay, next one, example 3. Example 3, we've got 12 to 6, and we want to write it, this time we want to write it in the form m to 1. So the 1 is on the right hand side. So we've got the 6 down to 1 by divided by 6, and 12 divided by 6 gives you 2. So that's it. So it is 2 to 1. Example 4, we have 8 to 24, and we want to get it in the form m to 1. So the 1 is on the right hand side. So 24 divides by 24 to get you down to 1. So we'll just do 8 over 24. And that 8 over 24 is 1/3. So 1/3 to 1. I would leave it as 1/3. That is the nicer way to leave it, as opposed to writing it as 0.3 recurring, or maybe 0.33 to 2 decimal places. So 1/3 is a much more accurate answer. Okay, we're now on to our map ratios. So map scales can be written in ratios and tell you how many units of land, sea, etc. are equal to 1 unit on the map. If, for example, you're travelling from Belfast to Newcastle and need to know how far it is, it would be very difficult to work this out if the map does not have a scale. So if you're looking at a map and it has no scale, you have no idea how far it is going to be. Finding a map ratio is the same as writing a ratio in the form of 1 to n, where n can be any number, but there must be a 1 on the left-hand side. So we're going to look at an example here. It says, find a map ratio of a map if a distance of 12 kilometers is represented by 1.2 on the map. Right, on a map ratio, the map becomes first, and then I will say the actual comes after. So the map always comes first, and the actual, or else I could have said real life, comes after. So 1.2 centimeters on your map is equivalent to 12 kilometers in real life. Now, what we have to do here, what the problem is with this ratio, is it's not simplified, and also, more importantly at the start then, it has got units, and the units, you should not have units in a map, in a ratio. So we're going to change this, try and get rid of the units. So to get rid of the units, we need to get the units to be the same. So you can see what I've done here is I've rewritten my 12 kilometers as 12,000 meters. I can't get rid of my units yet because they're still not the same. So I've still got 1.2 centimeters, 2, and then to get this into centimeters, I will need to multiply it by 100. So that becomes 1,200,000 centimeters. And now my units are the same, so I can now get rid of it. Get rid of the units, so it's going to be 1.2 to 1,200,000. Okay, now the problem with this is I've got a decimal. So to get rid of this decimal, I'm going to multiply by 10, which will give me 12. And then it's going to be 12 with 6 zeros. And then what I could do is divide by 12, which gives me the answer I'm looking for, 1 to 1 million. And that is my map ratio done for example 5. Example 6 says, the scale of a map is 1 to 50,000. A distance is measured as 3 centimetres on the map. How many centimetres, metres and kilometres is this equivalent to in real life? Okay, I'm going to do this in a couple of ways. The first way I'm going to do is I'm going to say 1 to 50,000. Underneath that, it is equal to 3 centimetres. So if you think how I've got from 1 to 3 centimetres, I've multiplied by 3. So to find my real life, I'm just going to multiply by 3 again. So it's going to be 15 and then with 4 zeros. So 150,000. 3 centimetres is equal to 150,000, and they must be the same unit, so centimetres. So this is 150,000 centimetres is your answer. But you could also convert that to metres. So divide by 100 to give you 1500 metres, and divide it by 1000 to give you 1.5 kilometres as well. So there's your 3 answers. Okay, just to show you another way which we might do this, which is using the fraction sort of method that we saw in one of the previous videos. So, or the second way of doing this, which you may prefer, is 1 to 50,000. Let it be equal to, it's 3 centimetres on the map, and the real life distance is x. Now we're going to write these as fractions. That's 1 over 50,000 is equal to 3 over x. And then what we're going to do is cross multiply. So that x comes up here and multiplies that, 50,000 comes up here and multiplies, and that will give you 1 times x is x. And sorry, I'll put a wee centimetres in here. 50,000 times 3 centimetres is 150,000 centimetres, which is then the same again as 1,500 metres, which is the same again as 1.5 kilometres. So if I'm honest, I prefer this second method, but I know an awful lot of people do prefer the first method. So whatever one you prefer, they're both good. The second one maybe is a wee bit more working out to do, but I definitely prefer it. This question says, if a map ratio is 1 to 5,000, I'm just going to write that down, 1 to 5,000, find the distance between 2 points that are 12 centimetres apart on the map. So I'm going to do this, show this the 2 methods, again, pick whatever one you prefer. So I'm going to write 1 to 50,000, and below it I'm going to write the map is 12 centimetres to whatever it is in real life. So to get from here to here, I multiply by 12. So I'm going to do the same here. I'm going to multiply the 5,000 by 12. 5 times 12 is 60, and then you've got the 3 zeros, and that's going to be centimetres. So it said find the actual distance. It was 60,000 centimetres. Divide by 100 to give you, that's going to give you 600 metres, and that's probably the way you would write your answer. You could write it as 0.6 kilometres, but I think 600 metres is a nicer way of doing it. Okay, the other way of doing it is using the fraction sort of method. I had 1 to 5,000 was my ratio, and it was equal to 12 centimetres to whatever my new actual distance is, and I'm going to call that x. So we're going to write these as fractions. 1 over 5,000 is equal to 12 over x. And then again, we're going to cross multiply here and see what we get. So x is going to be equal to 12 times, and it was 12 centimetres. So 12 centimetres times 5,000, which gives you our 60,000 centimetres, which again is the same, get rid of 2 of the zeros, same as 600 metres. So there you have your 2 methods of doing that sort of question. They're both good, just whatever one, personal preference, whatever one you like best. And the last part of this question, part B, says if the actual distance between 2 points is 3 kilometres, find out how far they are apart. Okay, right, these are the ones which I find a wee bit trickier, and I definitely prefer the second method. I'm going to use the first method for you, but I'll show you why I prefer the second method. So we've got 1 to 5,000, and that becomes something which I don't know, 2, and then it becomes 3 kilometers. So I'm going to call this thing x, and I'm going to work with my 3 kilometers first of all. You could work with your 5,000 and think how many times, what I have to do to get from 5,000 to 3 kilometers. I would just then put this into meters first of all. It's going to be 3,000 meters. It's also going to be equal to 300,000 centimeters. And then what I'm doing is I'm thinking, how do I get from here to here? So how do you get from 5,000 to 3,000? So how you work that out is you do 300,000 divided by 5,000 and see what you get. So if you just do that, you can use your calculator if you want. So 300,000 divided by 5,000 is just 60. So that just equals 60. So I'm getting from here to here by multiplying by 60. So that means 1 times 60 is just equal to 60 centimeters. So 60 centimeters, your answer is going to be 60 centimeters is equivalent to 3 kilometers in real life. Okay, right. I find that a bit confusing, that method, if I'm honest, so I will look at the other way of doing it. So I think it's much easier just to say 1 to 5,000 is equal to x to 3 kilometers. And then we'll just say that's 1 over 5,000 is equal to x over 3 kilometers. If we cross multiply then, you're going to get, so I'll just show you my cross multiplying line. So the 3 is multiplying up here, the x is multiplying up here, and you're going to get 3 kilometers times 1 is just 3 kilometers is equal to 5,000x. And then we're going to have to divide across by the 5,000, but it's probably easier just to convert your units of the 3 kilometers, convert that into meters first of all. It's equal to 5,000 x, and then also then that is going to be equal to 300,000 centimeters is equal to 5,000 x. I'm running out of space here, and then that is just going to be 300,000 divided by 5,000 is equal to x, and then you can see what cancels. 0 goes there, 0 goes there, 0, 0, 0, and a 0. You've just got 300 divided by 5, and 300 divided by 5 gives you x is equal to 60. And remember, the units we had got to were centimeters, and that is it. Okay, so I definitely prefer, I have to say, on both of those, I definitely prefer the second method for working them out. But everybody's different. You may prefer the first method, and that's absolutely fine. And there are definitely some questions, a lot of the questions, where it's easier to use the first method. But I think if there's any trickier questions, I really do prefer to move on to the second method.